So yesterday we were talking about the compounds of cholesterol, compounds derived from cholesterol specifically. We spoke about bile salts. What is bile salts? What are bile salts in general, and what are their functions? And coming to the other products, specifically steroid hormones that you get from cholesterol. Now, steroid hormones, as the name suggests, are compounds that will have the steroidal nucleus. That what do you call 18 ring nucleus that I showed you, the basic nucleus of steroid long ago. Any hormone that has that kind of a nucleus or that kind of a structure will be called a steroid hormone. Now, and there are several types of steroid hormones. You will have from cholesterol, you will get bile acid. See, all of these will have a steroid nucleus. Your cholesterol will have one, bile acids will have vitamin D, sex hormones, adrenal cortical hormones. All of them will have this. And specifically, those steroid hormones that have an OH group, okay, the steroid hormones that have a hydroxyl group attached to them, they will be called sterols. Okay, because they have an alcoholic group present to them, they'll be called sterols. Right. Now, coming to the first steroid hormone, glucocorticoids. So, so, yeah. So we're discussing about steroid hormones. The primary steroid hormone, first one will be glucocorticoids. आप लोगों को adrenal gland पढ़ा है? अभी हुआ नहीं हुआ? Have you been taught the adrenal gland?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You've been taught? Okay. Then what are glucocorticoids? Spelling is wrong. Acha, anything you know about glucocorticoids, or at least have you heard about glucocorticoids? Adrenal gland पढ़ा है बोले तो have you been taught about the zones of adrenal gland? What is cortex? What is medulla? What are the layers of cortex? अच्छा ठीक है, I'll assume that पढ़ा है नहीं पढ़ा है? No one is answering
Yes,
that.
sir.
You are taught? Okay, then which zone? What अच्छा, what are the zones of your adrenal cortex? So if you take your adrenal cortex, अगर ऐसा लिया मैं adrenal gland को, there will be the inner part and the outer part. What is the outer part called? थोड़ा basic
Cortex.
anatomy है, याद रहना पड़ता. The middle one, the center part.
Medulla.
इसमें कितने layers रहते हैं cortex में?
3 layers.
Okay.
So,
What are those?
zona fasciculata, zona reticularis.
Which is which?
Zona fasciculata, zona
नहीं नहीं
reticularis.
नहीं. First कौन सा आता? Let's suppose we are numbering this as 1, 2 and 3. So who is 1, who is 2 and who is 3? Acha, the first one is zona glomerulosa, second one is zona fasciculata, and the last one is zona reticulata. Okay, the first one will be responsible for the secretion of, what does the first one secrete? What does zona glomerulosa secrete? And secrete something, no? They individually secrete some things, and your medulla in turn will secrete something, some things, not just one. Think. I'm just randomly asking you questions that is not exactly anatomy class, but you need to remember this. See, that is why the subjects are interlinked. If you don't understand one thing, it will be harder to understand the other.
Aldosterone, sir.
Aldosterone. Who is secreting aldosterone?
Zone of glomerulosa, outer layer. Adrenal cortex, sir.
देखो, zona glomerulosa is a part of adrenal cortex, correct. Outer layer will be responsible for the secretion of mineralocorticoids. The main mineralocorticoid that is secreted is aldosterone. Alright, 1 second. right? Zona fasciculata is the middle layer that will be responsible for the secretion of glucocorticoids. The main glucocorticoid that you have is cortisol, stress hormone. What does zona reticulata secrete? Acha, your adrenal cortex is responsible for the secretion of aldosterone, cortisol, and something else, no? Trace amounts of something. One particular hormone.
Gonadocorticoids.
Testosterone.
Yep,
Gonado.
yep.
Gon.
Specifically androgens. Not so much what you call estrogen and all. It will secrete, but very little amount. A little bit more, it will secrete androgens, male sex hormones. Right. What does medulla secrete? Ever heard?
Epinephrine.
उन लोगों को क्या बोलते हैं ना? Epinephrine is one of them. Catecholamines. Catecholamines में आपका norepinephrine, noradrenaline, adrenaline, dopamine, and epinephrine आते हैं. Acha, have you been taught about the difference between what is epinephrine and what is adrenaline? They are similar in function, but it is not exactly the same. Acha, theek hai, that is a discussion for another day. Anyway, we are deviating from our biochemistry. So coming back to our glucocorticoids. So I hope this was a small refresher for you. Thoda to bhi yaad aaya. Now coming back to our glucocorticoids, our main glucocorticoid that is secreted from your zona fasciculata will be cortisol. Right, the important glucocorticoids. There are other glucocorticoids as well. There will be several intermediate compounds. We'll not concern ourselves with that for now. So cortisol is also called stress hormone. Generally speaking, increased cortisol production occurs when there is any form of stress applied to your body. It can be whether if you're not feeling well, or it can be what you call a proper illness, or it can also be cortisol levels will be higher when early in the morning. So when you get up, cortisol levels will be much more higher, and as the day goes by, almost by I think around 8 hours after you wake up or so, around that time, what will happen is cortisol levels will relatively go down a lot, and your androgen levels will increase specifically. Okay, so anyway, your cortisol being the most important glucocorticoid has a action that is somewhat opposite to insulin. It will have an effect. They affect your glucocorticoids in general will affect your glucose, amino acid, and fat metabolism in a way that is opposite to that of insulin. So whatever insulin will do, exactly opposite your glucocorticoids will do. Insulin will cause glucose to go inside your cell. Cortisol will do the exact opposite. All right, and so on. That is the basic way what this fellow will work. Now coming to how they are produced, I have one chart that I'll show you once again about steroid hormones. It will be easier for you to understand. Are you able to see this? I hope
Yes,
you guys
sir.
can see this. Okay, so if you see यहाँ पर cholesterol say you are getting mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, and sex hormones. So for now, concentrate on the middle one, glucocorticoid. From cholesterol, you get something called pregnenolone. Pregnenolone can be converted into 17-hydroxypregnenolone using 17-alpha hydroxylase. You'll need to memorize this chart. So in case you are asked individually as well, they can ask you what is what are the compounds that are made from cholesterol on the whole, or they can ask you write how glucocorticoids are made. If they ask you specifically one type, so let's suppose they are asking you only what is glucocorticoids and how they are made, then you'll have to write down cholesterol, pregnenolone. Pregnenolone is converted into 17-hydroxypregnenolone using 17-alpha hydroxylase. This is further converted into 17-hydroxyprogesterone, which is converted into deoxycortisol, which is finally get converted into cortisol. All right. So that is the cycle that you'll have to draw. Now that is how you get cortisol. Similarly, from cholesterol, you can get other compounds as well. Now, if you talk about mineralocorticoids, let's suppose your main mineralocorticoid will be aldosterone. Right, the main responsibility of your aldosterone is maintaining water and electrolyte balance. It will influence your kidneys in such a way that it can what do you call uh, cause water and electrolytes to be retained. Okay, whenever it is necessary, it will be secreted, and water and electrolytes can be retained. Specific, whatever is necessary, those will be retained. Now, cholesterol will be converted into pregnenolone. Now, see, if you see this part of the reaction, this step is pretty common. From here on out, diversification will occur. This step. Okay, you can get cortisol through this way, through using pregnenolone, or you can get it using progesterone. So sometimes you might get a question whether can you get what do you call cortisol, or can you get if let's suppose they ask you, can you get cortisol from pregnenolone or progesterone? Both of them will be correct. Okay, because they will individually be converted into different compounds. So pregnenolone is converted into hydroxypregnenolone, whereas progesterone is converted into 17-hydroxyprogesterone. 17-hydroxypregnenolone can also be converted into progesterone. Okay, so you have to be careful of such this thing. This HSD is hydroxylase enzyme. Okay, you'll have something called hydroxylase. Technically, it is a isomerase kind of enzyme, but dehydrogenase या isomerase दोनों apply होते. वहाँ पर you will have a pregnenolone molecule being converted into progesterone molecule. So anyway, coming back to our mineralocorticoids, you will get a what you call pregnenolone and progesterone followed by corticosterone. Deoxycorticosterone gets converted into corticosterone, which ultimately gets converted into aldosterone. So if you are asked about, let's suppose, write about how aldosterone is made from cholesterol, you'll have to mention this part, this cycle. I don't think you will be asked, but just in case you are asked, it is better to memorize the cycle. At least some of them, if not all of them. You can go with these. See, agar if you are trying to memorize this, it is easier if you remember these. Cholesterol 1, then pregnenolone, progesterone, this fellow, and this fellow. Okay, you can directly write that, skip a few enzymes, and you can go forward, because in between you do not have any intermediate products which are getting converted into a different form. It will make it a little bit easier for you, or else you can memorize the whole thing as well if you want to avoid confusion later on. Okay, so that you'll be able to memorize which hormone is converting which fellow and how you are getting cortisol, aldosterone, sorry. Now, coming to androgens, here specifically he has only mentioned the male androgens, that is, he has only mentioned androgens and not estrogens. You will also get estrogens from your cholesterol. I will draw it on the whiteboard. Now, your main androgens or your male sex hormones will be produced by Leydig cells. आप लोगों को reproductive cycle पढ़ा है, male and female?
No, sir.
नहीं पढ़ा है, okay, ठीक है. So you have some specific cells in your testes called men have specific cells in their testes, interstitial cells called Leydig cells. Okay, those Leydig cells will be responsible for the production of androgens. To some extent, a minor extent, androgens can also be produced by your adrenal glands. Your zona reticulata will be responsible for the production of androgens, and ovaries also have the ability to produce a small amount of androgens. So you can have women with testosterone as well. Again, if there is a problem, let's suppose what do you call a mutation in the gene with wherein ovaries are producing excessive amount of testosterone, you might have a lady who is showing more masculine characters. As such, ovaries will produce a little bit of testosterone, but the thing is estrogen has a property of suppressing it. When you have more and more amount of estrogen and estradiol, the products of estrogen, you will have suppression in the function of testosterone, but still some traits of testosterone are exhibited. Okay, you will generally see women with hair on their skin, especially on their arms and all. That is specifically because of testosterone. That is a secondary sexual character which is supposed to be manly, but because testosterone is present in women as well, they also will have that. in any case. Now depending on the amount of testosterone, that will vary. In some people it will be very low, in some people it might be higher. Okay. Now testosterone is produced in such a way that you can get what do you call, so आपको mainly याद रखना है this part. So what is dehydroepiandrosterone, androestradiol and testosterone. Okay, from testosterone you will end up getting dihydrotestosterone and estradiol. Now the important part about dihydro testosterone, it is also called DHT, is that testosterone is not the active part of, or it is not the active sexual hormone, in the sense that your primary product from your testes that you get is testosterone, no doubt, but the active hormone that you find in your circulation and which will give you effect is DHT. Okay, dihydrotestosterone is the part that will be active rather than testosterone. So bear that in mind whenever someone is having excessive amount of excessive what you call traits of what you call androgens, you will give a suppressor for DHT rather than giving a suppressor for testosterone, especially for something like, let's suppose people who are losing hair and this thing. Testosterone has a side effect where it can cause hair loss. Okay, if someone has excessive amount of testosterone more than normal, it can lead to what do you call hair loss. Specifically, the form of testosterone that will cause hair loss is DHT. So what you can do is you can decrease DHT levels in such patients so that hair growth or at least balding will stop or something like that. In any case, that is about your um, male sex hormones. Now coming to the other part, which is your estrogens. Oh, people were trying to come in. I didn't see that. Now, your in that particular chart, they didn't mention about androgens. Now, you can get. So, we'll continue from androstenedione. So, I'll just show you where we left off in androstenedione here. 1 second. From here, I'm continuing. So you have cholesterol being converted into pregnenolone, which is converted into hydroxypregnenolone, which is converted into dehydroepiandrosterone, which is converted into androstenedione. Okay, from androstenedione, I'm vertical continuing in that chart. Okay, on the board. So वहाँ पर क्या बताए, androstenedione say you are only getting testosterone, which is not exactly correct. So from your androstenedione, you get two products. Okay, those include the first one you get is obviously testosterone. Okay, and the next product that you get here is estrone. Right, estrone is also called E1. Okay, the forms of estrogen, you will have three forms. Okay, you will have estrone, which is E1, estradiol, which is E2, and estriol, which is E3. They are different forms of that same hormone. Okay, the same steroid hormone will have 2-3 different forms. So the first form, E1, will be estrone. From estrone you can get estriol, which is E3. Now what happens, how you get these is androstenedione, if it undergoes something called aromatization, if it becomes an aromatized structure, cyclic, special type of cyclic structure, that is when you will get estrone. From estrone you can get estriol. Specifically, the type of aromatase enzyme that is responsible for the production of your estrone is called prometases. Promatase or prometases, they have several types of prometases. One particular type is promatase. So promatase is an aromatase enzyme that will cause aromatization. Because of that aromatization, what ends up happening is you will get estrone. Now your ovary produces estradiol, which is E2, and it will produce estrone, while your placenta synthesizes both E2 E1 as well as estradiol. Now, synthesis of your estrogens is under the control of LH and FH. The same way, the production of your androgens is under the control of two particular hormones which are called LH and FSH. Ever heard of LH and FSH? They are under pituitary control.
Follicle stimulating hormone.
Yes, they are luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. Specifically, your LH will be the one that will be acting on your testosterone or in your on your Leydig cells to produce testosterone, and FSH will be acting on your follicle cells to produce estrogen compounds. Now, there is another one type of uh, female sex hormone called progesterone, which also has a steroid nucleus and is a precursor of, which is formed from your cholesterol, which has the precursor of cholesterol. Now, progesterone is synthesized by a particular structure called corpus luteum and placenta. Now, अब आप लोगों को reproduction नहीं पढ़ा है तो I'm not sure whether you know what is corpus luteum or not. इससे पहले कभी पढ़े नहीं पढ़े. So, corpus luteum is one particular structure that is कैसा बनना? Let's suppose ovulation ho raha. At the end of ovulation, what happens is once the what you call ovum comes out of your ovary, specifically in that, suppose if I take one ovary like this, and you have a follicle that is developing. Inside you have the ova growing. At one point of time, what will happen is in ovulation that ova will come out. Okay, so let's suppose this is the ova, or do it in a different color. I'm giving you only a very brief picture, okay? So let's suppose your follicle starts off like this. One single, there'll be several small budding cells, one of whom will develop into your ova. Okay, let's suppose this fellow is growing a little bit, and finally what is happening is this ovum is coming out, okay, to go out into your vertical uterus and all. यहाँ पर the structure that is left back after ovulation has occurred. So you will have one structure which looks like this, okay, which is devoid of the ovum. It will have the same functions as the main function of that particular structure is production of progesterone, and that structure will be called corpus luteum. Okay, it is the follicle that was developing, which was nurturing ovum till the point of ovulation, and after ovulation occurs, depending on not whether pregnancy occurs, this corpus luteum will stay for either around 10 to 14 days, or it will remain for almost 4 months, depending on whether or not pregnancy occurs. अगर pregnancy हुई तो 4 months के लिए रहता. अगर pregnancy नहीं हुई, normal menstrual cycle हो रहा, then it will remain for 14 to 15 days. The function of corpus luteum is to produce progesterone. Progesterone is an important hormone in maintenance of pregnancy, and it will also, in a way, prepare the uterus for what you call fertilization and for maintenance of pregnancy. Okay, now your progesterone, this fellow is specifically under the control of LH. Okay, luteinizing hormone will be the one that is controlling your progesterone production. All right, coming to the, I hope you are understanding till here. If you're not, please let me know. I'll repeat any particular part that you want me to repeat. You do not have the hormonal functions in detail, but you have how they are produced. So coming to the next one, which is vitamin D. Now, vitamin D will have several forms, okay, depending on how you look at it. Your active form of vitamin D is calcitriol, but you will also have other forms. You will have something called vitamin D3, which is called cholecalciferol, mainly found in animals. You will find them in humans as well. And you have something called ergocalciferol, which is called vitamin D2. Vitamin D2 is something that is present in plants. Okay, you will have vitamin D2 and D3 both in humans. Okay, so I'll just write down the forms. You have D2, which is your ergocalciferol. Okay, and you have vitamin D3, which is cholecalciferol. and you have active form of vitamin D, which is called calcitriol. Okay. Now, the absorption and transport of this vitamin D, obviously, it is a fat soluble vitamin, which you already know, I hope. The beneficial effects of your sunlight, it will be mainly produced by your uh, cells in the body under the influence of sunlight. If you have sunlight, specifically early morning sunlight, it will be very beneficial to you in the sense that it will help in the production of vitamin D from your cholesterol, specifically just under your skin, uh, around that area your vitamin D can be produced. Now, vitamin D has a very important function in regulation of both calcium and phosphorus. Calcium and phosphorus के metabolism it plays a role. We'll get into that in a bit. Now, coming to absorption and transport of your vitamin D, bile salts play a very important role in the absorption of vitamin D. If you do not have adequate amount of bile salts, you will not be able to absorb these vitamin D molecules from your duodenum and jejunum. Once it gets absorbed, it is carried by a chylomicron. It will be carried in chylomicron droplets, small droplets of lymph. Okay, they will be in combination with serum globulin. Okay. Now, the active form of vitamin D, which is called calcitriol, this fellow specifically is synthesized in your liver and kidneys. Okay, once you have what you call vitamin D molecules that you have consumed going into your body and being absorbed and being transported, they at one point will be reaching your liver and kidneys, where the active form will be formed. Active form of your vitamin D will be made. That active form is called calcitriol. Now, coming to the functions of your vitamin D, it has some very important functions. Now, the first important function of your vitamin D will be intestinal absorption of calcium and phosphate. So, intestinal absorption of calcium and phosphate. Why do you need calcium as phosphate? For bone health. Okay, if you do not have enough amount of vitamin D, or if you have a deficiency of vitamin D, you will see a direct correlation in that person having weaker bones. Okay, they will also have bone degenerating diseases and things like that. They will easily get fractured, and their bones will be very brittle as well. So will their teeth. The teeth also will hurt a lot, and what do you call they will what do you call how do I put it, they can break very easily. Okay, bones and teeth, they are something like reserves of calcium. Okay, so let's suppose I have a bone, some long bone especially. Let's suppose I'm taking humerus. Humerus kidhar rehta? Where do you find humerus? One second.
At joints.
Hand. Okay, which part of the hand?
So joints.
Joints.
Mm.
अच्छा, which joint? हैंड में ही है, करेक्ट है. हैंड में है या सी हैंड इज अ वेरी लूज टर्म. टेक्निकली स्पीकिंग, hand will be something that is refers to your what do you call palm region and that part rather than the whole arm. Let's suppose it is upper limb. Upper limb में कौन सा part? Long bone of
the arm.
long bone of the arm. मतलब let's suppose आपका shoulder girdle इधर है, तो ये बोन जो आ रही है उसको बोलते हैं ह्यूमरस.
From shoulder to elbow, sir.
Shoulder
From shoulder to elbow.
Correct. Okay. What comes out of रेडिया एंड अल्ना का ऊपर सर? अच्छा. या रेडियस एंड अल्ना के ऊपर. इट इज नॉट एग्जैक्टली ऊपर. ओके, या फाइन. यू कैन आल्सो स्कैपुला. स्कैपुला किधर से आ गया यार इधर?
नो सर, स्कैपुला ऊपर है.
स्कैपुला ऊपर रहता है.
कनेक्ट सर, स्कैपुला कनेक्ट करता है. हां,
स्कैपुला शोल्डर गर्डल के पीछे ना रहता?
हाँ, पीछे आता है, कनेक्ट करता ना सर.
Yes, it helps in. What does scapula do with relation to your humerus? Scapular shoulder bones.
joints,
It joins. Scapula picture रहता. So if I look from the posterior view, ऐसा दिखता scapula. Somewhat okay, rough diagram. ऐसा दिखता. On this you have your shoulder girdle and here you have your humerus. You will have some muscles present here, no? उन लोगों को क्या की बोलते हैं ना? अच्छा, again we are deviating anyway. This is not anatomy and physiology, though it is very interesting, but it is not anatomy physiology. Right, so you know humerus. Now let's suppose in your humerus it is being a long bone. This fellow will act as a source of calcium and phosphorus, especially when, let's suppose I have a blood vessel here. Let's suppose मैं थोड़ा अलग color में draw करता हूँ, नहीं तो bone and blood vessel में difference नहीं रहता. Let's suppose this is a blood vessel, and at one point of time, let's suppose serum phosphorus levels and serum calcium levels are falling. Okay, they are low. Your bones and your teeth will act as a reservoir for calcium and phosphate. So whenever there is decreased amount of phosphorus and calcium, you will have something called osteoclasts, special cells called osteoclasts. Okay, osteoclasts, don't confuse them with osteoblasts. Osteoclasts will help in removal of calcium and phosphorus from your bone, and they will send this into your serum so that the level of calcium and phosphorus can be balanced there. Whenever you are having healthy amount of healthy food and adequate amount of calcium and phosphorus in your food, along with the production, along with vitamin D, that vitamin D will facilitate the what you call movement of calcium and phosphorus into your bone, reinforcing your bone. That is why vitamin D is important. You will also have one very important cell that is responsible for this movement called osteoblast. Okay, blast will literally make the bone, clast will break the bone. Okay, or it will, you can also tell that blast will make the bone stronger, whereas osteoclast will make the bone more malleable. All right, so intestinal absorption of calcium, intestine may absorption of calcium and phosphate uh, uh, to what do you call, absorb calcium from your calcium and phosphate from your intestine, you need vitamin D. If you have lower amount of vitamin D, you will not be able to absorb calcium and phosphate properly. Other than that, your vitamin D will also be responsible for mineralization of your bone. Now, synthesis of calcium, there is one particular protein called calcium binding protein. Okay, it's called osteocalcin. That protein as well as alkaline phosphate, both of them will increase calcium and phosphate ions in your bone. So if you have the synthesis of calcium binding protein and alkaline phosphate, your calcium and phosphate levels will increase. These both processes are dependent on your vitamin D. What vitamin D will do is, the first thing is it will stimulate transcription of mRNA of that protein. So vitamin D will directly cause that protein synthesis. So that protein is called osteocalcin. I'll just write it as O-calcin. Whenever this protein is present, calcium can go inside, or calcium can be absorbed into your bone. So vitamin D is influencing in that. That is one thing. Okay, it will cause the transcription of one particular mRNA, because of which that protein can be formed. Other than that, your vitamin D increases the excretion of phosphate by kidneys and decreases its concentration of serum, in the sense that अगर kidneys से excretion increase कर दिया, whereas क्या बोलते आपके concentration in blood कम करा, in the sense that serum concentration of phosphate decreases only when that serum concentration or that phosphate from serum is able to go into your bone. So as I told you, what happens is, whenever you have enough amount of phosphates or calcium present in your blood, whatever excessive amount is being present, that excessive amount will be thrown into your bone, and bone later on can act as a reservoir for both phosphate and calcium whenever necessary. That movement is facilitated by your vitamin D. Okay, it will also help in development and growth of your bone, also your maintenance of your bone health. That is why vitamin D is very important. In case you have deficiency of vitamin D, you will not only have osteomalacia, you will have osteomalacia is a condition in which it is a type of defective mineralization. Your bones will not mineralize properly because of deficiency of your vitamin D, and they'll become more brittle. They can break easily. Other than that, it can also sometimes lead to osteoporosis and rickets. Rickets is a very specific disease that happens when you have decreased amount of vitamin D. Okay, we'll go into a little bit more detail in the next class.